presentation. I moved here 35 years ago from Florida, and I love Kentucky. Honestly, I love the change of seasons. I love the environment. You know, you go off any street, you're in the woods. I love that. And I knew there had to be Bigfoots here. So I was kind of selfish in one respect. I wanted to know where the Bigfoots were so I can have a sighting, right? And the other reason is I'm an animal lover, tree hugger, and I wanted to protect them and the forest they live in. So I thought if I could form an organization, get enough evidence, maybe protect them as well. So that's our mission, is to eventually prove the species. And I'm going to say this in the beginning, and I'll say it throughout. We have, in my opinion, enough evidence. We have casts from all over the world, Kentucky. We have DNA. We have videos. We have pictures. I can show you some today. We have more out there. We just don't have a body. And to be frank, it's going to take a body. I mean, there's too many issues with the DNA and other issues I could talk about. But it's going to take a body. I don't condone killing one. We're a non-kill group. So it's a challenge to gather evidence and try to prove them to our state legislators maybe and protect the forests like Daniel Boone and such. So that's our main goal. My forte is documenting witness testimony. I have over 500 witnesses in Kentucky that I've interviewed, either in person or on the phone, that I think are credible. I throw out the bogus stuff. That's a lot, over 3 decades of research. Witnesses tell us so much, okay? They tell us what Bigfoots look like, because we don't have a lot of video and pictures, right? The witnesses tell us where the Bigfoots live. I have my private Google Maps, which I'll show you one today, the area. My pins, where the Bigfoots are. Well, that's where I go to look for tracks or have an encounter. So they tell us that. They also tell us about Bigfoot's behavior. You know, what are they eating? I got stories of them in Kentucky, the lady looking at her backyard, and Bigfoot's got an armful of apples picking apples. I've got one, the Bigfoot picks up a roadkill, a dead deer, throws it over its shoulder, walks off. So we know they're omnivores. You know, lots of reports of them eating fruits, vegetables, nuts, and deer, even dumpster diving and looking for trash. So they're also opportunistic. So all that being said, I'm going to give my presentation today. Afterwards, we'll take your questions so I can get through it all. And then if anybody's had a sighting, if you want to share it, you don't have to share it today here, but I do want to document that sighting. Does anybody have a sighting? I can just by show of hands. We've got one back there. Anybody else have a sighting? Don't be afraid.
Got a visual. I think I've heard.
You heard? How many heard one? What? Couple, yeah. So ma'am, afterwards, if I can get your name and number, I'd love to interview you if you care to. All right, so I'm going to get started, and then think about all your questions, because I know you're going to have a lot. But I'm going to try to cover all of them if I can. So, again, our mission is to prove these creatures to the world, and I believe it's a yet-to-be-discovered hominid like us. Now, in the Bigfoot research, there's 2 kinds of theories, basically, or researchers. There's some that believe they're flesh and blood, like myself, it's a hominid. Others believe they're supernatural, paranormal. Could be. There's even another one that they're government cover-up. It's a government experiment went wrong, or the aliens dropped it down. Or there's lots of theories. We don't know. It could be any of those, to be frank. It could be any of those. And I have support for a couple of those based on witnesses. But basically, I believe it's a yet-to-be-discovered hominid like us. They're highly intelligent. I like to say they have a high environmental IQ. So, and I'm going to go into this more. If you want to have an encounter, the best way to have it, you go out in the woods, you're non-threatening, you don't wear camo and have rifles, and they know what hunters do. They stay away from hunters. But hikers, campers, they're curious. It's their biggest weakness. They want to come in and see what you're doing in their living room, right? Because we're their entertainment. We're their TV. So they'll come in to where you're camping in the gorge, and I'll tell you some stories today, and they'll watch you. Yeah, sometimes they'll throw rocks, they'll push trees, they'll growl, and usually the campers leave. But in over 3 decades of research, I've never had a Bigfoot hurt a person. That's the good news. Right? I had to come face to face within 10 feet. Daytime, looking in his eyes. If the Bigfoot's looking at the witness, usually the witness leaves first, and then the Bigfoot leaves. They're just curious. Now, Bigfoots are like people. They have different temperaments. You might get a bad apple one day. So I'm not going to say that one, won't hurt you. You never know. But on the whole, they just want to be left alone, honestly. So we respect them. If we have an encounter and we know it's time to leave, we leave. Everything works out for the better. So these are some of the stuff I put together based on witness testimony. Typically around 8 feet tall. The predominant hair color is reddish brown. We have white ones, we have gray ones, black ones, just like people. The white ones in Kentucky, there's a couple white ones seen by Carter Caves, Carter County. Over Barron County, there's another white one's been seen a couple times. One thing that sticks out here is the hooded nose. So the witnesses that have the close encounters, they say when they look at the face, it looks human-like. They had a wide hooded nose, not a nose like a gorilla. I'll show you some sketches by an artist in our organization that will talk to the witness, and he'll do a sketch, and it has a wide hooded nose. That's another reason I think they're closely related to us and not a gorilla. So they're highly intelligent, wide hooded nose, and again, that's why I think they're more hominid-like. Walk with a gliding motion, that means their head doesn't bob up and down. They're super fast, they're smooth and agile. I get numerous witnesses that come forward. They don't even have the internet, some of these witnesses. They live way out in the country. They said it looked like it was on roller skates. It was so smooth and agile. And I get that over and over again. Broad shoulders. So here's a couple things about a bear. We have black bear in Kentucky, right? Even in the gorge. Bears don't have shoulders. When a bear stands up, it does not have clavicles. It just goes straight down from the neck, basically. On the Bigfoot sightings, I ask them, what did it look like? Just an open-ended question. I don't lead the witness. I don't put thoughts in their heads. What did it look like? Oh, it looked like it had shoulder pads on, like it was a football player. Wide shoulders, 4 foot wide. That tells me it's not a bear. What did the face look like? Oh, it was flat. Looked like a human or a gorilla. It was flat, they say. Again, that rules out bear because bear have a big muzzle. Ears, did you see the ears? Nope, didn't see the ears. Again, rules out bear. Bears have big ears on top of their heads. Did it walk far? Yeah, it walked right across this meadow. Again, Bigfoot, not bear. So when I get all that information, I can determine, yeah, this is a possible Bigfoot sighting. So, again, I don't lead the witness. I just ask them, what did you see? So we get this question all the time, where are the bones and fossils? So I'm going to throw a bunch of stuff out here real quick, right? We don't have all the answers, but I will tell you the first chimp fossils were found in 2005. 2005 is not long ago. The chimp and ape record is very sparse. There's not a lot of fossils because where they die, the ground's not conducive to preserving fossils. Case in point, Monster Quest did a time lapse of a deer carcass. Had the dead deer there, they staked it down, they put a camera on it. Guess how long it took for every piece of that deer to vanish?
7 days.
A little bit more. You're good. You're close. So it's quick. 10. It was a month. It was about four weeks or so. Every piece of that deer was gone. Porcupine, other scavengers eat those bones. I got video. You can go online. There's a video of a deer eating another deer's bone. So they vanish quick. Okay. Next question. What does a sick apex predator do?
Go off to die.
Yes.
Hide.
Hide, right, when it's sick. We know that from other large animals. So if a Bigfoot's sick, right, and he goes and hides away in these remote areas, these hills and hollers of Kentucky, we don't want to walk up or go down, right? It's too thick. Well, by the time we get there, if we ever do, the bones are gone. So it's another reason, maybe. Possibly they bury their dead. I've been remote in areas where there's been Bigfoot sightings. I'm talking remote, off trail, bushwhacking it, and come across a big burial mound of rocks. No other rocks around. You can tell it's a burial mound. But I'm talking 8 foot. I mean, massive. I'm not going to disrespect it and dig it up. You know, it could be Native American, it could be whatever. So maybe they bury their dead. Most hunters and hikers don't go 90% don't go more than a mile from a trail. So they did research, actually in West Virginia. I saw your Virginia.
Oh, yeah.
They interviewed witnesses, hunters and hikers. Most of them don't go more than a mile from a trail. Well, Bigfoot's not going to die by the trail, right? Any hunters in here? Couple hunters? You ever see a bear skeleton in the woods? Black bear. I never get a yes on that. And we have black bear here, right? So that's my point. You're not going to walk up on a Bigfoot skeleton sitting there in the woods. Now, we do have some fossils. I'm going to talk about some fossils today. There's a famous one called Gigantopithecus. And I might even have him, let me go past that. This is a model of Gigantopithecus. It doesn't work on this. On the right there. That's a replica of Gigantopithecus. Lived in Asia 100,000 years ago. The one on the right, the right over here is a skeleton of a Sasquatch, 8 foot tall. So academics like Dr. Jeff Meldrum, this is Dr. Jeff Meldrum, let me go back here. Dr. Jeff Meldrum, he has a PhD in anthropology, a PhD in anatomy. He's a leading academic for Bigfoot. He has the largest cast collection in the world of footprint casts. One of the largest samples is from Kentucky in his collection. And I have a few of them up here. So before you leave, take a look at those from Kentucky. He has those in his collection. The cast he's holding in his hand is right down there in the end. So, Dr. Meldrum thinks Bigfoot is a descendant of Gigantopithecus. It could be. We don't know. I lean towards another yet to be discovered hominid. I lean towards something more human-like because they're highly intelligent. Everybody's heard Dr. Jane Goodall, right? World-renowned primatologist. She is very famous for working with monkeys. Very famous. Well, now, if you Google her and Bigfoot, you can hear her say, I do believe in Bigfoot, basically. I believe there's a unknown primate in North America, meaning Bigfoot. So she's on board now. Both of these scientists are not afraid to come forward now. 10 years ago, they would never come forward if a Bigfoot exists, or they lose their job, their funding, and so forth. So we have more support now than ever before. Just recently, about a year ago, I was speaking at a conference with Meldrum, and he had some news for the audience. He said the government has contacted him and wants confiscate his research, wants the information he's gathered about Bigfoot. So the government is now involved with his research. So this is another hominid. Less than 2 years ago in China, they found this in a well. The gentleman passed away who had found it. He found it 80 years ago. And he was nervous. He threw it down a well. On his deathbed, he told his family where it was. They went and got it. And it's three to four times the size of a human skull. Large eye sockets, heavy brow, kind of what you think a Bigfoot would be. They do think this is a Denisovan skull. What's interesting about Denisovans and Neanderthal, all right, we just learned this just about a couple of years ago. We have Denisovan and Neanderthal DNA in us. we coexisted at some point, Homo sapiens did, with Denisovan and Neanderthal. We just learned that. Dr. Meldrum just came out and said this to me and the audience too. He said, anthropology is very dynamic right now. It's changing daily. New discoveries are coming in daily. And it's changing what we know about our family tree and the branches of the tree, you know. So that makes 7 different hominids on this planet in the last 50,000 years. So 7 different hominids lived on this earth in the last 50,000 years. That's not that long, 50,000 years really. That's a replica of what it would look like. If you put a little bit more hair in there, it could look like a Bigfoot maybe. So where are all the pictures? Right? I get that question all the time. All these game cameras, there's got to be more pictures. Come on. Here's some reasons why I listed why we don't have them on game cameras. You know what IR is? Infrared. I had 3rd generation night vision on once. My buddy had a pair of cheaper night vision. Through my night vision, I could see his IR beam like a flashlight going through the woods. I took them off, I couldn't see it. I put the night vision on, I could see it. So if a Bigfoot's adapted over thousands of years to be nocturnal to see at night, they could possibly see the IR. Therefore, if that camera is shooting an IR beam over there, it makes sense. The Bigfoot's going to avoid that camera. It's not going to walk over there where the camera is. Right? I got pictures of deer looking in my game cameras. And a deer's not bright, right? So I think Bigfoots are too smart. They do slip up, and I will show you a couple pictures today. There's one. This is from Ohio County, Kentucky. Now, I know there's some people that might go, into the paranormal, supernatural part of Bigfoot. That's fine. They could have those abilities. But just to let you know, that is not a portal over there on the left. This is a picture of the gentleman's TV screen. So it's a reflection off his TV screen, and you're seeing the hallway to his kitchen. Long story, I'll try to keep this short. He had 5 pictures of a Bigfoot. Someone from this church contacted me. You got to get down here. Drove down to Fordsville, Kentucky, knocked on his door. After about a half hour, he let me in his house. I came in his living room, and I saw amazing pictures on the big screen TV. Amazing pictures. This was one of them. I begged him, can you give me the SD card from that game camera? Because if I had the SD card, I could on the computer zoom in and see what that is. Nope. He's a hermit, wanted to be left alone, and it's typical. I don't want the media on my property. I don't want hunters on my property. I don't want trespassers on my property. I don't want to be ridiculed. I just want to be left alone. And frankly, they're not hurting me. I don't want to hurt them. So I don't want anybody out here. So I'm at a loss because I can't go any further with this, right? Every time I went back to his house, so I wanted to see him again, because there were some amazing pictures. This was one of them. I even baked him brownies one time, but he would not give me the SD card. Offered him money, signed non-disclosure. He would not release those pictures. But this is kind of hard. I wish this pointer would work in there. He's on his knees in some corn here. His hands are in the corn. So he's on his knees. He's looking down, receding forehead. When you see this in high definition, he looks creepy. Doesn't look like a typical Bigfoot. Most Bigfoots have that combination gorilla, human-like face, hairy. This looked scary. This is another picture. This is a little restaurant in Kentucky. This is a copy of the actual printout of the picture. The picture was in the restaurant on a bulletin board with a thumbtack in it. And the guy said, hey, can I get a copy of that? I know a guy's a Bigfoot researcher. So he scanned it off a picture, sent it to me. I cannot zoom in on that. I need the original picture from the SD card to zoom in on it, right? So we don't know what it is. And I said, can you get the SD card? No, the guy already put it back in his game camera. He's trying to get pictures of deer. He didn't care about it. Now, if you notice at the top of the picture up there, see that round thing? This is Owensboro, Kentucky. It's close to where the other picture was. Yeah, it's Davis County, near Ohio County. So that little thing up there, I hate to break it to you that it's not the mothership that dropped the Bigfoot. But we don't know what that is again. It could be a guy in a big coat. We don't know. If we had the SD card though, I know I can tell you because I can zoom in. So these are two pictures side by side. The picture on the left, anybody know where that's from?
Bluff Creek.
Yep, Bluff Creek, Patty. That's a famous footage of Patty. That's a still shot from that footage. This picture was sent to me from Tennessee. I get pictures all the time. I probably got a picture now someone just sent me. People send me pictures all the time of blob squatches, of red circles of shadows in the woods, and that you can't really you can't decipher, so I don't get too excited. This one, I opened up that night and I go, oh my gosh. I jumped in my truck, I drove to Tennessee. Because this one here, the guy took with a cell phone. He was at a ground blind early one morning. He thought it was a deer coming out, looked out, and this female Bigfoot walked in front of the ground blind. He took his cell phone out and took a picture of it as she walked away. Look how similar that is to Patty. Again, this gentleman told me he wouldn't even give me the picture. I said, can I post that online? I'll get lots of likes if I post that. He goes, no, I don't want people down here harassing me. But you can show your presentations. Just don't tell people where I live. That's what we're up against. Is some of this evidence we can't really go to the public with, or scientists. Okay, this question is based on any film footage, not just Bigfoot, anything. What piece of footage has been analyzed the most?
Patterson.
No, not Patty. Not Loch Ness. No, any footage. I'm not even talking about
the Zapruder.
Which one?
Zapruder film. Zapruder film?
No.
You said what film footage? Are you talking about Bigfoot or just in general?
Any in general.
Oh, I thought the Zapruder film.
Yeah. No.
Okay.
Oh,
Yeah, Kennedy is.
you got it.
That's just Zapruder film.
The JFK footage, right? That makes sense. So last time somebody told me the moon landing, that one's been analyzed a lot. My wife still thinks we didn't land on the moon. But a lot of people think so too, I don't know. But anyway, the JFK footage is number one in the world that's been analyzed by people. Okay, what's number two?
9/11?
I would think that too, 9/11.
Patterson Gimlin.
The Patterson Gimlin. A piece of Bigfoot footage is number two, right here. I encourage you to watch Sasquatch Legend Meets Science. It's a documentary. They break down this. They do a nice job. There's even more developments since then about this piece of footage. Here is a little clip of it stabilized. This is in '67, recorded by Bob and Roger on horseback. They filmed this. It was real shaky. They were able to stabilize it. There's again much more analysis done on this. More anthropologists now think that's a living, breathing creature and not a man in a suit. There's more support now than ever before for that footage. Her name was Patty. She was a female. They named her after Patterson, Roger Patterson, so her nickname was Patty. So, speaking of nicknames, anybody know what the nickname of the Bigfoot in Florida is called?
Skunk Ape.
Good, got Skunk Ape. Okay, here's a harder one. What? Skunk Ape, because it stinks. Down in the Everglades. My dad growing up, people ask, how did I get started in this? My dad would tell me bedtime stories of the skunk ape. And then tuck me in. Great, thanks, Dad. This one's harder now. What's the Bigfoot in Ohio called?
Ohio Grassman.
Yeah, you got it, Grassman. A couple people. The Grassman. So every state has their own nicknames. When I was in Owensboro a month or two ago, I had like 4 or 5 people come up from West Virginia. We got the wood booger. move there. The Yowie, Australia. The Yare in China. Every country has its own nickname. These are the same creatures, basically. Same hominids, I like to say. Kentucky, though, we never got the memo on what to call these guys. So throughout my research, I found every county has its own name. And these are just a few of the names.
Midnight Whistler.
We're pretty creative here in Kentucky. And there's other ones, the Wild Man in Kentucky, right? Matilda was one.
Backyard band.
And I could do a whole presentation on Matilda. Matilda was in northern Kentucky. A lady was throwing food out in her backyard, we do scraps. And 3 Bigfoot would come up and get the food at different occasions, a family of them. The young one, the juvie, they nicknamed Matilda. Long, long story. They brought in scientists, they got video, they got DNA, and a lot of it fell through for lots of reasons. And again, I could do an entire presentation on that study in Kentucky. They nicknamed the young one Matilda. That's where that came from. These are more.
Have you heard of the Downy Booger?
The Downy Booger with County.
I'm not sure. I just heard the name. I'm not sure if it's in
The public monster.
Booger, we get boogers, we got wood boogers, we get wild men.
No, it's a goat man. The thing, aka Trimble County beast. There's a lot of them in Trimble County. A red eye.
Yeah, some counties actually have 2 nicknames. They couldn't even decide on which nickname to call it in each county. All right, let me go over a couple of these for you in a second. So, in a second, I'll go over some classic encounters. I want to get into the local encounters, because I know this is what you want to know, right? You want to know, is there one in my backyard? So when I go home, I shut my window at night and lock it. No, again, kids, they don't, I said it before, honest, they don't hurt people. Never taken a report of them hurting a person. And I'm being honest. They look at us, we look at them, and they leave. But it's still creepy, though, to have them looking in your window. All right, so here's one of my private maps. We are the blue dot. See the blue dot? I wish I had my thing doesn't work. See it right here? There we are. Okay? I'm going to talk about a couple of these reports around us. But right up here, again, is the Red River Gorge. Up there is Cave Run Lake. So they're kind of clustered around Cave Run Lake, Red River Gorge, and then you got some outliers of these reports. So let me talk about a couple of these, and I'll come back and point out. So in Jackson County, that's south of us, if you just go straight south from here, basically, these couple of reports here, I just took these from a library down there. Their interviews are on my website, on my YouTube. You can listen to these people talk about this. So this gentleman here, when he was a young boy, teenager, would go shoot BB guns in his holler. And there's an abandoned house. Well, this particular day, he saw something in the window before they got down there, and he thought it was just a curtain or something, but he could tell it wasn't there before. It moved. As they get closer and closer, it appeared in the next window. Now, these windows are high up from the ground, and the windows are large. The head took up the entire window. He could tell it had hair, it was daylight, sunny day, and he told his buddy, let's get out of here. He could tell it's a big hairy man in that window. But based on the size of the window, the head was way too big for a man. So we don't know if for sure it was a Bigfoot. We just know that it was odd. This lady here saw it twice, 2 years back to back. The first time she saw it, nobody believed her. The second time, she had her daughter with her. She was driving, and this one was skinny and white. Had white hair, or maybe gray, but he said it was really white. She's driving her car. It was McKee Road, highway, what is it? Highway, can't see it. 89 going down to McKee from here. It's right along there, and it was staying by a tree. She slams on the brakes, backs up, and shows her daughter. Her daughter screams. So she had to take off. But it was very skinny, hairy, white. But she said it was a Bigfoot. That's what she told her. Oh, Bigfoot, I told you. There it was. We get white ones. We get skinny ones. They're all not big, strong beasts. Let's see. This guy here was a sheriff deputy down there near McKee. Same area, basically. He went on TV. So get this. This sheriff deputy goes on national television, right? And says a Bigfoot walked across his front yard and stepped over a fence. National TV. Years ago, people would never do that, right? You lose your job, people laugh at you. How can you be a police officer if you're telling people you believe in Bigfoot? There goes your credibility. Well, you know what? People accept it now. So, again, that's another valid, credible witness there coming forward. Most witnesses have everything to lose and nothing to gain, right? Literally. You might get a little bit of fame or attention, or they might pay a little bit of money, but that's not much to be made fun of by your peers. I have a guy in Kentucky. He's an athletic director at a high school. He's also the girls' soccer coach and a teacher at a high school. He saw a Bigfoot at LBL with his family daytime. His video is on my YouTube. You can see him clear as day talk about the Bigfoot. He even went home and took crayons. And he drew a picture of the Bigfoot with crayons and holds the picture up. Think about it. He went back to the high school Monday. You know, you can imagine his peers, students would make fun of him, right? He didn't care. He knew what he saw. I love it. I love it. Powell County. So we're talking now over by the Gorge area more. I'm not even touching the reports. I'm just highlighting some reports. There's more. You saw my map. These are a few. Clifty Wilderness. Years ago, I took a report from Rodney. His name was Rodney. His report now is on Terror in the Woods. On what channel was that? Terror in the Woods. Amy. One of those big networks. Yeah, Travel. He is on there talking about his sighting, camping, about a Bigfoot that won them off camping in the Clifty Wilderness area. All right, Wildcat Creek, Wildcat Trail there. That's where that was down there. Another gentleman, and I'm skipping around here, sorry. This was Terror in the Woods, this one right here, same area. He's on my YouTube talking about it. About 3 Bigfoot possibly came down around them, and they scared them off. And it's a great testimony. You got to listen to it. He tells it better than I can tell it. Very detailed. But he got run off from the same area. These two here, I'm going to go back here for a second. See the top two? Those top two? I just took those. Let me go here. So, where those top two are, we're right here. They're right here. This one and this one. So these two right there. Those two right there. I just documented these. Now they're older reports. The one was on Furnace Mountain. Anybody from Furnace Mountain? Oh, no. That's where these reports are coming from, Furnace Mountain. When he was a boy, they'd go ride their dirt bike at night on the road, going up Furnace Mountain. They're teenagers. They go by something big on the side of the road on the left in a ditch, massive. And the kid on the back is ribbing him and hitting him in the ribs. Stop, stop, stop. Did you see that? And he stops and I saw it. He goes, you don't want to know what that was. He goes, what was it? He goes, I don't know, but I'm telling you, it was covered in hair. It was some kind of big animal. He goes, go back. So they turn around, they go back down, they slow down a little bit. The creature stands up, typical Bigfoot. 8 foot, 4 foot shoulders, covered in hair, massive, standing in a ditch. And he hit the throttle and got out of there. What did he say? Something about how it was funny how he said he skipped gears or something. But his testimony is on my YouTube talking about this. he's actually, you can watch him talk about this. He went back the next day. This is what's kind of weird. He goes back the next day. He said there was a dead horse. And the hind end is kind of eaten out, which we know coyotes do that too, right? They kind of go for that area. But they think the Bigfoot was eating on the horse. It was just odd that he threw that in there, but they're opportunistic. We know they do go out for roadkill. I got other reports of them picking up deer and such. I got one by Bernheim Forest, the park ranger, who had a sighting in Bernheim. On another occasion, 2 park rangers had a sighting in Bernheim. Another occasion, he's in front of Bernheim. Someone had just hit a big buck. So he goes, I got to get that out of the road. So he goes up, turns around. As soon as he turns around, he comes back. The buck is gone. He gets out of his car. Where's it at? You can see the blood. Something drug it off the road, up this berm, into the woods. That quick. Something grabbed that deer that quick and drug it. You can see the drag marks going through the leaves. He said, coyotes couldn't even do it. Something big grabbed that buck and slid it up out of there. And he had a sighting in there, and another park ranger had a sighting in Bernheim. The other report is, this is Furnace Mountain here. This other one up here is the lady, she was reading at night in bed in her trailer. And she said she had a little kitten and it tore up her blinds. So she said, my blinds were kind of tore up. I could look in the backyard there. And something was in my trash. So I get up out of bed, put my book down, walk over. This creature stands up from my garbage in a garbage pile. Stands up. Didn't look at her, but she said, covered in hair, massive, typical 8-foot wide shoulders, and it stepped off into the creek. And she said it was a Bigfoot. That was the second one there. So they do go dumpster diving. We got lots of reports of them going through trash looking for food. They got to consume a lot of calories, right? If you're 8 foot, 1,000 pounds, you got to eat a lot. Let's see, the last one, this one here is between Stanton and Clay City, right where the Red River comes up there. If you go from the back way to Stanton, Clay City, the guy was 1:30 in the morning or something, was walking, and he heard splashing in the water and smelled something terrible. So he looks over and sees this big creature, long reddish brown hair like an Irish setter. That's the way he described it. It looked like an Irish setter, but massive, and he's scooping the water. So he thought maybe it was fishing or something. Because I didn't say a word. I just kind of looked, then I decided to walk on down the street. And he said he looked back a couple times. The creature never really looked at him. It was too preoccupied scooping the water. He said at one point he did look around, but never did see the gentleman. And he kept walking on. So another interesting one, and I'm going to show you here. Let's see. Oh, let me go over this one here. So about a year ago, a guy contacts us. Actually, it's on my Facebook group. He posted in the group, not to us. Did anybody see anything around here in the state, whatever? And I'm like, okay, this guy knows we own the Clay City Inn, and that's our headquarters, so to speak. This guy's making something up. I called him. He goes, I don't know anything about you guys. I don't know anything about your organization or where you are. I was just leaving Slade one Sunday morning early, and along the parkway there, near the Red River, something big, reddish brown, long hair, swinging arms, was walking away from the parkway in this field and went in towards the woods, towards the Red River. And I almost struck the car. He said, I almost hit the bridge there. The Red River crosses 3 times there. It's the first one coming from Slade in that field there. So here's what I got excited about. We live right here. So I told my wife, let's go over there. So the next day, we drove over there. There's no way to get that little section of woods in the field. There's no houses, there's no roads. The only place you have to park in the parkway and walk down along the little bridge area through thick brush to even get to that little field. So, less likely that it could have been a hunter in a ghillie suit. Also, he said reddish brown hair. ghillie suits aren't reddish brown typically. So I'm leaning more towards Bigfoot than a guy in a ghillie suit walking, because he did say it looked like hair to him. So that was only about a year ago. That's the most recent. Now this last one, are you guys ready for this? I hope you're ready, right? All right, let me show you. Who's heard about Daniel Boone and the Yahoo? Okay. All right, here we go. There's a couple sources that I've checked on this. Now, any folklore, you don't know if it's true or not. Supposedly, the last year of his life, he told this story. There's even one occasion where he's sitting around a fire, and someone said, Daniel, can you tell us a story about killing that Yahoo? And some people chuckled. He goes, I'm not telling. I ain't going to tell him. So later on that evening, that one gentleman that was laughing went to bed, and they said, Daniel, can you tell this story? He goes, okay. So here's how it goes. And there's research to back some of this up. Boonesboro, right? We know he was there in the 70s with his family. It's well documented. He was in Boonesboro, right? That's not far from Clay City if you look at the map. In the documentation, it said that he came up through there, it mentions Mount Sterling, which is just north of Clay City, up to Ohio. Daniel had traveled that. And the reason he traveled that, the Shawnee stole some horses from him. So Daniel and his son went after the Shawnee who stole the horses. They went that direction up the Licking River, where Licking River empties into the Ohio. They got there. They built a raft. They crossed the Ohio. There's like 500 Shawnee waiting for them. So they wisely turn around. Hiking back to Boonesboro, they would hike separate because they looked for resources. His son was an excellent marksman. Daniel was, of course. He hears his son fire multiple shots. And Daniel thought, that's odd. He's a really good shot. Why did he shoot twice or 3 times? So Daniel rushes to the other ridge. This 10-foot hairy creature has his son up and throws him down. Daniel gets close enough to shoot it in the face, hitting it in the eye, killing it. This is how the story goes. Which I've always heard this story until recent, a couple of years ago. I'm like, how can you kill a 10-foot tall Bigfoot? Because there's stories today of people shooting them and they walk away with a high-powered rifle. How can he kill it back then? Well, if you hit it in the eye, that's a weak spot to the brain. That makes sense. And this part of the story I leave out a lot. When Daniel examined the creature, where the son had shot it in the chest, Daniel took his tomahawk, cut back the skin and hair. The rib cage was a solid bone. It didn't have ribs like us. It was one big solid bone. And the bullets hit it and went around it and came out the back. I thought it was interesting that they added that to the story. So have these creatures have adapted to have a solid breastplate for protection? I don't know. It's just in that story. So Daniel took his walking sticks, or his and his son. They laid them out. His son was okay, by the way. They laid him out. They got back to Boonesboro, and they said it was 10 feet, 6 inches tall. Light in color, more of a yellowish blonde in color. Wasn't dark haired or black hair or anything like that. This is the story of the Yahoo. And again, I have a couple sources. It happened not far from here. Mount Sterling down closer towards Ludgred Creek, I can't even say it, Ludgred Creek. So this is an old map of this. It kind of shows Boonesboro here. This is some of these paths that Daniel would take. We think it happened somewhere in here. So there's other stories of Teddy Roosevelt. Teddy Roosevelt was a president of the United States. In his book, I think it's The Wilderness Hunter, he talks about Daniel camping on the Red River with some of his buddies. Didn't mention the Yahoo, but he mentioned Daniel Boone used to camp on the Red River, which is right here. So, classic encounters. All right. This is our local resident Bigfoot in Anderson County, over by Lexington. The Fraser land, You know, it's like somewhere around 5,000 to 10,000 acres. Lots of history there of Bigfoot sightings. Mr. Tyndall first saw Howdy in the 60s, and Howdy walked out in his yard and did this. And then multiple people have seen him over the decades. 2011, some teens from Florida moved here. They contacted the BFRO. A friend of mine, Jack Smart, took the report. They didn't know about Bigfoot in Kentucky. They didn't know about Howdy. They said, we're playing in our yard, this creature walks out of the tree line and does this to us. Like waves to us. And Jack said, oh, you saw Howdy. Now, Howdy wasn't in the best of shape, like most Bigfoot. Most Bigfoot are big and muscular. Howdy had a little bit of a belly on him. And my theory about that is, this took place right behind the Wild Turkey Distillery. So I think there might be a connection. Just kidding. But it was behind the Wild Turkey Distillery. Cedar Brook Road is right back there. This is where this took place. Now, I want to get serious about something here, though. When people ask me, do they migrate? No, they don't go to Florida for the winter. It's too risky, right? Think about it. For them to go to Indiana, there's too many neighborhoods and highways. They stay put in the same counties over decades because I get the same physical descriptions, the same behaviors in the same counties over decades. So I pretty much, they stay in the area, as long as they have food and shelter, we're not encroaching on them. I do believe they kind of just stay put. Now, if you get too close, they do get aggressive. They do throw rocks. There's places in the gorge. We've had multiple rocks thrown at people. Didn't hit them, but scared them off. So they do get territorial, and they push trees over and such. So they are trying to protect their little habitat there. So based on Howdy's behavior, I do think they stay in the same areas. And I do think maybe they learn this from us, right? They watch us. There's a report of a Bigfoot, supposedly. The guy was hiking, lost his dog. The dog had worn off. He's calling his dog back. I even forget the name of the dog, Shirley or something. So say the dog's name was Shirley. The guy, Shirley, Shirley. The dog was barking at something. The dog comes back, and then from the woods he hears something go, true, true, like mimic his dog. So you get lots of reports of them trying to mimic us. This could be the case. And the reason I say this was at the Tennessee conference. I was there 2 years ago. You've been in the auditorium, right? It holds like 1,000 people in the auditorium. And I get done speaking, talking about Howdy. This guy runs up out of breath. He goes, I got to tell you something. When I was a boy in Illinois, this town, or lake, I was fishing with my dad. When my dad was fishing, I'm riding my bike on this dam. And I would ride down the dam, and I would slide, ride back down, and I would slide, kick dirt up. The third time I go down, I stop. This big creature stands up from behind a bush. And it does this. He said he did the same thing you described Howdy doing, like it waved at me. But it was a typical Bigfoot, covered in hair and massive. So he couldn't wait to tell me that story. Now, again, that's not Howdy. Howdy did not go to Illinois and vice versa. I just think they mimic us and they do learn some of these behaviors from us. So here's another one. There's so many of these stories. Face-to-face encounter. This gentleman was like 80 years old. He lived in the country. He was retired, a little farmer. He had a little garden in his backyard. He didn't have the internet. He had one of those old radios, which kids don't know about. These radios what you listen to music on, and you listen to like radio shows. It's not a podcast. They had round knobs on them. This red thing would go back like this. And he's listening to the local news, and Don Neal and Don, who are now speaking tonight over in Owensboro, Don Neal comes on there talking about Bigfoot. So this gentleman calls in and said, I saw one. I was face to face with Bigfoot. He talks to me. So get this story. He goes, I'm in my backyard working my garden. And I look over, and this big hairy creature is standing by the tree line. And I said to it, It's okay. You can come closer. I won't hurt you. You don't know what a sweet old man's going to do, right? Some people, you don't know how they're going to act. They're going to run. They're going to get their gun. He just said, it's okay. You can come closer. When people get caught off guard, you do not know how you're going to react. I get this time and time again. It takes a while to process what you're looking at. I've got hunters looking in their scopes at Bigfoots. 2 of them in Anderson County. The hunter watched those 2 Bigfoots, never shot him. He goes, I didn't know what I was looking at. In 10 seconds, they're gone. So this gentleman sees a Bigfoot, and he goes, it's okay, come closer. He didn't know what it is. He says it the 3rd time, and he realizes he has his rake, so he lays his rake down. He thought the rake was scaring it. It's okay, come closer. The Bigfoot steps over a 3-foot fence, walks up about 10 feet from him. This is a sketch from the artist in our group, Terry Thomas. Terry Thomas does amazing work. He'll draw a picture of what happened and what the Bigfoot looked like. After speaking to the witness, he realized the Bigfoot was gray in color, long arms, broad shoulders. Interesting thing about the Bigfoot, he said the hair looked like it was cut. The bangs looked like he went to supercut to or maybe the mom put the bowl on the head and did the bowl thing. But he said that was odd for him to say that the hair looked cut. Wide hooded nose. See the wide hooded nose?
Hair look cut.
We get that all the time. Thin lips, et cetera, et cetera. So as the gentleman's watching the Bigfoot, he decides it's best I go in. He turns around, walks back to his house. Before he goes in, he looks back. The Bigfoot's walking behind the greenhouse, leaving. He goes in his house, takes out 2 potatoes from his garden, opens the back door, sets the potatoes on the railing of his deck. He goes, before I went to bed, I looked out my back door, the potatoes were gone. So we don't know if the Bigfoot took the potatoes or another animal took them. You like to think there's a mutual respect there with these creatures. There's people that gift, it's called gifting. They leave food in the backyard, the Bigfoots take it. They leave arrowheads, feathers. They'll bring shiny things they found in the woods, toys. I get so many stories of them gifting with people. Again, another example of them not hurting us. They're just curious. Okay, this one I like to throw in here. This is the actual picture. Has anybody heard this story? Okay. Here's what's exciting for me as a researcher. When you take a report from a witness, when is the best time to interview them?
Immediately.
Why is it important immediately? They'll forget. If they get distorted, they embellish it, the story changes, right? So I was there. I was a witness. I've told this story for over 10 years. I've told it on podcasts. I tell it everywhere I go, basically. It's a cute story. I like to share it. This year, I was in Ohio. And this excites me to no end. I haven't seen these 2 ladies for 10 years. I did not know they're coming to the Bigfoot presentation. They walk in, they go, do you know who we are? I go, no. We're the scout leaders. I went with you over by Mammoth Cave when you took us out. I go, oh my gosh, hi. I give them big hugs. I go, oh, it's been 10 years. I was so excited they were there. So they sat in the middle there. Before I told this story, I go, okay, here's an experiment. You guys are all part of this. You're going to witness this experiment right now. Here's what's going to happen. I'm going to tell this story like I've told it for 10 years. These ladies have not told it that many times. I want them to be honest and tell me when we're done, in front of all of you, how accurate was this story? Did I embellish it? Right? Because I'm curious. I honestly, gosh, thought I embellished it some. I added some stuff on it. So here's the story, right? These scout leaders contacted me from Ohio. They said, we want to come to Mammoth Cave. We want to go to the cave. We want to go horseback riding. We want to play putt-putt. And we want to look for Bigfoot. I said, okay, well, I'm the man to see. So I did some research. Outside the park there, close to Park City, there's a place there called Sloan's Crossing. It's a boardwalk. It goes around about a mile. The boardwalk was safe. I thought, to take these girls, I want a safe place, right? The boardwalk's low to the ground. It's made out of that recycled plastic, so it's really hard. I'll take them there. Okay. Plus, there's a report there. This is the main reason. There was actually a report from a park worker. Went to check the boardwalk when they were making it years ago. He was on an ATV. His lights hit a bear. The bear stood up on two legs and walked away on two legs. That was the report. We know bears don't walk far on two legs. So I'm classifying this as a Bigfoot report, basically. I'm going to take them there. Okay. So we go to the little restaurant. I do a presentation in the back, scare the daylights out of them. I play crazy music, or not music, howls and calls and show pictures. And these were like girls 10 to 14, all giddy and all excited to go for Bigfoot. The mothers, like 4 moms, are all skeptical. So we get all pumped up. We go to the spot. There's nobody in the parking lot. It's late at night. We're the only ones there. It's pretty remote, the area. We get out. We use red headlamps only. We don't use flashlights. I explain to them, here's the deal. Bigfoots are highly intelligent. We're not going to speak up on them. Here's also the deal. They're very curious. Having all these girls here laughing and have your bait, okay? They're going to come in to see what are we doing out here. Honestly, not thinking this is going to work. I even have my recorder off. It was in my pocket. My recorder was off. I'm just showing them how we do research, really, to be honest. So we go around that boardwalk. We knock on trees with baseball bats. I give them a bat, knock on it. They, whoa, we're behind me. They knock on the trees with a baseball bat. They do crazy calls. They're all laughing. One girl even goes, "We have Girl Scout cookies." And I got serious. I like to play jokes. I got real serious. I go, "Shh." I go, "What are you doing?" They go, "What?" I go, "What if a Bigfoot comes up and you don't produce the cookies?" They're all so laughing. Because they didn't have cookies with them. We're going to mail the cookies to them. So we're all laughing. The point was laughter, right? So we walk around that boardwalk for 45 minutes doing knocks and stuff. No flashlights. The mountain monsters, that's a great show for entertainment only. That's not how we do research. You're not going to have a flashlight seeing a Bigfoot. They're too smart for that. So just a discreet red headlamp, laughing, just being normal hikers. We get to the other side of the boardwalk. There's a little pond in the center. You can't see it. It's July. It's thick, dense woods. We're on the other side. I give the bat to the girl. I said, do 10 fast knocks. I like to call these distress knocks. That's intense, right? That means, like, to me, like, come quick, I need help type thing. I call them distress knocks. She does it. Now, I have a group with me. There's another group here with a couple of moms. A couple of girls are already crying, and the moms are trying to console them. and she does those knocks, and you hear, like you do it. A knock and whistle, clear as day. The other side of the pond, we can't see it in that direction we just come from. Clear as day. What other animal knocks and whistles together? You know one? Bigfoot. Bigfoot's the only one that knocks and whistles that we know of that I've recorded in other people. I'm thinking, okay, what did we just hear? A knock and a whistle. What did we hear? I asked her, what did you hear? A knock and a whistle. I go, let's go over there. They go, no. Let's not go over there. I go, it's fine. Just calm down. I told the other group. They were too busy talking and stuff. We all heard it. It was as clear as day, knock and whistle. And I said, let me get in front. So I get in front. They all walk behind me. They're right up on me. We get all the way around the boardwalk through the woods. It meanders through the trees. All the way over kind of where it was. And part of the story was, we got there. One of the moms thought she saw eye shine. If you keep going, you can get to the parking lot. I go, okay, let me go check it out. I had a little Seek thermal on my phone that will pick up heat, but it was really bad. It didn't work good. I go, let me go look, stay here. So the whole group is there. Like a dozen Girl Scouts and 4 moms. And I leave them. I walk over here. I'm looking. I don't see anything. As I walk back to them, boom! On that boardwalk, just around the corner, something jumped on that boardwalk with such force that you felt the vibration. You felt that vibration, right? Guess what one of the skeptical moms did?
Screaming.
Worse than that. What's the worst thing you can do if your child's with you? That's pretty bad.
Run away.
Run away. She left her daughter.
Yeah.
Made a beeline for the parking lot. I left her daughter, right? And where are you going? So I was actually a little scared, to be honest, because this was loud. I took a flashlight out now for protection. I would say if you ever felt threatened by Bigfoot, get a light out, put security lights in your house, they're not going to come around. They don't like light. So I did take a flashlight out. I did walk around, but the boardwalk curves, I can't see where it was. They're tugging at my shirt. Let's go, come on. Okay. So we go to the parking lot. This is the parking lot shot. And you can see a couple of girls are crying right down the front. They're all, oh. They drove back. And first of all, I told them this. Hold on, I'm skipping ahead. I told them this. It worked. It worked. We were in their living room. We're their entertainment. We were like doing crazy calls, laughing. I think we brought an adult Bigfoot up, right? We got to the other side. We did the 10 distress knocks like a juvie, like a young Bigfoot, asking for help. I think we brought one up, and he did a knock and a whistle, like a location thing, like, hey, I'm right here if you need me. I'm right here if you need me, type deal. We walked back over there, and he didn't like that. It was like a bluff charge. It was like, okay, you guys are done. You need to leave. That's how loud that was. So I told them it worked, blah, blah, blah. They were excited. They drove back to Ohio, and the scout leader said, they didn't talk about Mammoth Cave. They didn't talk about horseback riding. They didn't talk about putt-putt. All they talked about was that night. I think for 2 years in a row for Christmas, I got Girl Scout cookies in the mail. So get this. This year in Ohio, those two ladies sitting there, I just told that story, right? When I got to the part, when I said, when they drove back to Ohio, they didn't talk about Mammoth Cave, they didn't talk about horseback, they didn't talk about putt-putt. All they talked about was that night. They both said at the same time, and they're still talking about it today. Still to this day. And I got goosebumps now, and I got goosebumps then. I told the story right. They said no. It was, and the one lady goes, I was the mom who walked away. The scout leader. That's even worse. She's a scout leader. She's in charge of all these kids. I just thought about that. She was a scout leader. That's even funnier. But anyway, I know it's not seeing one, but to be there, you had to be there. You got to know the circumstance. It's like if someone tells you a ghost story, you're like, okay, really, that thing moved over there. But you got to be there, right? You've got to be there. All right, so let's see here. So vocalizations now, ready? This is in Kentucky. This house is the actual house. There was ghost hunters in this house. They try to catch EVPs on digital recorders or ghost sounds. They recorded something yelling from the ridge coming down. They were out front here smoking, which I thought was funny. You know, why'd you go out front to smoke? It's an abandoned house with no doors and windows. I don't know, we just went out front to smoke, so they were kind of standing here. This thing is yelling coming off the ridge. This audio clip is long. This is a section of it. I sent it to this guy here, that's his alias. He works in the Air Force. He's a crypto-linguist specialist for the Air Force. He analyzed this. He analyzes all Bigfoot vocals on his website, Sasquatch Bioacoustics. I encourage you to go there. He breaks them down. He says it's not coded, not human. This is in the typical range of a Bigfoot. And he classifies them, quantifies them, validates them as possible Bigfoot recordings. He thinks this is one. Okay, so he took this. He actually took the people talking out. That's why it sounds a little bit funny, because the people talking, he was able to remove them. Listen to this part. Hear that change in pitch? It goes on and on. This is one section of it. He breaks it down, each piece of this. He said that vocalization is not a code, it's change in pitch, blah, 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 blah. So this is one piece of vocalization. There's more of it on my website. Here's another one. This is where this picture was taken. We were back there. In fact, my buddy Brent's coming tonight. He's the guy I'm going squatching with. We're going out tonight, but we were out on New Year's Eve, was it? Or, I don't know, it was cold too, 18 degrees. We are remote. He broke something on his truck, 4x4, to get back there. We're alone. We heard really good tree knocks. Then we turned our lights, red lights on, and then we heard this yell. Then the coyotes went berserk. I cut the coyotes out. So real quick, we think there's a relationship with the coyotes and the Bigfoot. You'll hear these crazy howls, yells, then the Bigfoots go off. The coyotes go off. A little while later, over here, you hear the crazy yells, and then the coyotes go off. It's almost like the coyotes are following the Bigfoots. I've got many more examples regarding tracks and food about the coyotes following the Bigfoots. So we don't know because they're scavengers. Do they hunt together? Did the Bigfoot domesticate the coyotes? They give them names. We don't know what the story is, but there's some kind of relationship we think there is with Bigfoot and coyotes. But again, listen to these two howls or screams. It had almost like a human-like tone to it. If you go to my website, listen to it a million times like I have, you can tell it sounds like a human yelling, not a coyote. Now there are some cases, you guys know this, you live in Kentucky, where the alpha male, the coyote, the alpha would be louder and sound a little bit different than the rest of the coyotes. If you listen to coyotes long enough, you can tell the alpha from the rest. In this case, I don't think it was the alpha. So Tom Shea, Trimble County, that's where these casts are. Before you leave, come look at these from Kentucky, okay? He's got the largest cast collection in Kentucky. Dr. Meldrum, PhD in anthropology, PhD in anatomy, has a copy of his collection. He vouches for them as legit casts from Kentucky. I was with Tom at his research site, 3 o'clock in the afternoon. We're cooking bacon. Who doesn't love the smell of bacon, right? Everybody. We're trying to bring a Bigfoot in. We're burning the bacon, right? About an hour after cooking this, I recorded these whoops. I'm going to play for you. Now you're going to say, if I don't tell you this, you're going to be like, oh, that's made up. I have a digital recorder. You can buy any digital recorder online. Sony, what's the other ones? I don't know, there's a bunch of them. Under $50. It's the mics that make the difference. I buy mics that are more expensive than the recorder. Omnidirectional. Omni means any direction. It'll pick up vocalizations. Highly sensitive. I put them away from us in the tree line. We're cooking bacon. We hear it sounds like a small rock coming through the trees and hits the tree trunk. We didn't see it, we just heard it. Well, it sounds like a rock. Then I recorded these whoops. That's good. That's me. Oh, that's good. I was going to stand on the front. They're on my website. So I encourage you, I beg you, go listen to them. Find any known animal in Kentucky that makes those whoops. You will not. I looked. The only thing I could come close was a monkey in the Cincinnati Zoo. Mm-hmm. That sounds a little bit close. We don't have monkeys here in Kentucky in the woods, right? So those whoops are really good. And it's an area where there's been tracks, sightings, hair samples. It's a hot spot for Bigfoot. So you add all that up, you got DNA, you got hair, you got tracks, you got sightings, and then you got vocals. We just don't have the creature, unfortunately. So now, all those burning questions, all those snide remarks, all the things you want to know about, now I can answer them. So who's first?
How can you tell if a Bigfoot is female?
Like Patty, they, I guess I can say it, they have breasts. So Patty, you can see the breasts on her. That's one way.
Have you seen one? Have you had a video?
Okay, I'm a bit chicken. The Girl Scout thing, I was about to run, but I didn't want to knock your head. I've been remote, and I had stuff like throw rocks, push trees, growl, lots of stories, and I tend to leave. There we go. At one time, a couple of years ago, about 75 yards down the creek, sunny day, I saw two dark figures, all black, the swing, the arms, drove around both sides, just swamp, no trucks. I don't know how a person could have gotten back there. When I drove around to both where they were going, where they came from. That could have been two, but again, it's too far away for me to say I did see two. So,
Is there a difference between a Yeti and a Sasquatch?
okay, so here's a trick question. When the teacher says it's a trick question, you got to think about it, right? It's not an obvious answer, right? What color hair does the Yeti have?
Well, some of those ones are brown, but the Siberian
Reddish
bears
brown.
or whatever, right?
Well, that's a whole other study that a guy did
Yeah,
on
I
a
read
bear.
about that.
But the Yeti has reddish brown hair, not white. Okay, so follow me on this. I think these creatures that are seen in every country, different names, are basically these hominids, these hairy hominids, yet to be classified or discovered. I think the Bigfoot came across the Bering Strait land bridge from Asia and dispersed across the United States, like the other animals. So I think it's related to the Yeti, if that's your question. I think they're all kind of related, and they disperse like humans. They didn't take boats, but if they cross land bridges that are no longer there, now they're isolated, and now they adapt to their environment. So in Kentucky, they're around 7 to 8 foot tall, reddish brown. You go to the Pacific Northwest, you get them there 10, 12 feet tall, bigger up in Canada, so forth. So here they're not as big. There's even other areas they're even smaller. So they adapt to their environments. But I think they're all kind of related. Yes.
Why on the lunch poster, why does it look like the Bigfoot doesn't have a neck?
That's just a costume.
Um,
That's just my wife put that on there for fun. So that's on there for fun. The rest of that stuff on there is legit.
yeah, but a bunch of those pictures that all of them look like the Bigfoot doesn't have like a neck.
Oh, okay, I see your point. So you're right. A lot of witnesses say it looked like the head just sitting on the shoulders. There's no neck. Huge trapezius, right? The traps, massive. And that's why, if you notice in that one slide, a lot of witnesses said they turn at the waist. It's almost like they can't turn their head because the muscle in the head. So they kind of turn their waist. So you get that a lot from witnesses. They turned at the waist and looked at me. So,
I appreciate you doing this one. Thank you.
you're welcome.
And letting us see this in this area, because years ago I used to hike and camp all over here. Never saw one, but couple questions. I've heard that the Kentucky Gaming Commission or the Wildlife Commission takes infrared in helicopters or in airplanes, and they use it to monitor deer population for population control. Is that true? Are they doing that? And if they're doing that, why can't something as large as 8 feet tall and 400 to 600 pounds show up on infrared like the deer?
So they just did that at Mammoth Cave. My brother, multiple people sent me it. They wanted to document the white deer population in Mammoth Cave.
Right.
So they were flying these planes over with thermals to document the white-tailed deer population. And I even said to them, oh, wait, you're going to be surprised what they see. Because if you see this massive humanoid creature deep in the woods, you can tell it's a humanoid but
You
massive.
think it would show up?
You think it would. So, this is my opinion. Kids, I'm going to tell you this, and everybody else in here, I'm not an expert on this. I'm just telling you what I've learned and what my thoughts and my opinions are. You do your own research. You come to the library, read books on anthropology, read books on science, whatever. You go in the woods with family and friends, you do your own research. you know, that's the best way to do this. Never take one person's word for it, okay? Not even me. So with that being said, I believe the government knows about them and there's a cover-up. And I can go on a couple examples. I'll give you one example. The Smithsonian documented giant human skeletons of the 20s, then stopped. They brought this gentleman in. I need to look at his name. He stopped all operations on these giant human-like skeletons. If you Google giant human-like skeletons, you'll find newspaper articles in the Ohio Valley, Kentucky, Indiana, all over these giant 8-foot to 12-foot massive skeletons. Human-like, maybe Bigfoot-like, you don't know. Where did they go? Where are these giant skeletons? Here's one more, and I got other examples. On my website, I've got a deathbed confession from a sergeant at Fort Knox who they killed for Bigfoot. It's a heartbreaking story. It's a long story how it came about. But after this happened, they were taken to Ireland Army Hospital. A man with white hair came in. They had to sign non-disclosure, never to talk about it. They were getting shots. They had a whole protocol in place. He said the creatures, that's how they call them, it's like almost like this has happened before, near there. Now the gentleman's passed away, and before he passed, he told me I could share that. It was a phone conversation. You can share that. It's on my website, on the YouTube channel. You can listen to it. It broke my heart because, you know, I would never want to kill one. But then it also validated that they do exist and the government doesn't know because this was like a cover-up. Now that's my opinion. Doesn't mean it's necessarily true. Any other questions? Yes.
Have
Yeah.
you ever had anything like rock or branches?
I'm trying to think. Not a lot. Most of those reports are from witnesses who had things from. Now they claim big rocks in the gorge. I'll tell you this. One spot in the gorge, we had multiple large rocks come. I took my wife there when she first moved here. We went out in the daytime in this area. She did 3 rock clacks. Got a knockback immediately. The same area where these rocks were being thrown from multiple witnesses over years. Other reports of them throwing sticks, little pebbles. There's reports of people walking down these dirt roads in the country going to their friend's house and something hitting them in the back with pebbles. And they turn, there's nothing there. Almost like it's sticking out from the woods and it's throwing pebbles at them just to play. You know, you think the young ones are a little bit more mischievous and like to do things like that. So pine cones coming in the woods, people camping, something throwing pine cones. They get up and they don't see anything. They hit the flashlights and nothing's there. But the pine cones are coming sideways. One time I had a rock, didn't see it. We were just going out on an investigation. And you hear it come through the woods, some branches, bam, hit a tree and fell. And we were up on we couldn't get to it. We were kind of on a ridge there. But it sounded just like a baseball whipping through the trees and hit that tree, boom. I'm like, wow, that's pretty early because it wasn't even dark yet. It was like dusk. I'm like, wow, they're aggressive tonight. But that's the only one I remember of them throwing one happened to me.
You believe in cloaking?
For which one?
You believe they can cloak?
Oh, so cloaking is we turn invisible. Okay, so follow me on this. We know the polar bear have clear hair, right? There's a report in Kentucky of some people down by the Green River fishing. Bigfoot, a big branch of a sycamore fell with the Bigfoot into the Green River. These boys jumped up, ran in the woods, looking from the woods. This Bigfoot, it was white actually, this is Barron County, was swimming arm over arm. When it climbed out of the woods, here's the interesting thing they said. When it climbed out of the water, it grabbed a tree branch, pulled itself up, started to run. He said the hair looked dry. The hair was blowing in the wind. He just added that to the report. So, do they have like oil? Does it repel water? Refract light. The guy in LBL, the athletic director, when he told that story, he said when it was standing in the shadows, when it would move back and forth, it would almost disappear when the light would hit it, and the hair, he said it looked like it almost changed color. as it was moving. So is that light refracting? Is it bending around the hair? Does the hair have special properties? Cryptic colorization is a real thing in science. We know octopus, chameleons can change color actually, right? There's other animals that use cryptic coloration. Has a Bigfoot adapted over thousands of years the hair to blend in better with his environment? Or is it supernatural? Is it related to the Nephilim in the Bible? Giants that some people believe. Could be. We don't know. But I personally don't think they can turn physically invisible.
I just watched the big shit show since Mother's Day.
Yeah. We don't know.
Have you talked to any Native American tribes or with any stories from them since they've been out in the woods forever about any?
I have not personally. I've talked to people in Kentucky that are almost like the parents are full-blooded Cherokee or Shawnee or something. I've talked to people like that have some interesting stories, but not firsthand. I haven't. But almost every Native American culture has Bigfoot in their folklore or oral traditions. Almost every single one. So, and this is before the internet, so how can all these people have the same stories in different continents of the same hairy creature? It's kind of odd, they didn't have the internet back then to communicate and share stories, so how can they have the same stories? So,
I got a follow-up question. Do you think most of the videos are hoaxes? Because my question is this. It was, 50 years ago that the Patterson film was shot? And, it's all grainy and shaky and stuff. But this Bigfoot's just walking along. One, did they run out of film? Why did they stop filming? Greatest discovery known to man. They had horses. Why didn't they follow it or continue filming? And that's my thing about all the videos. You see them there 3 to 4 seconds. They stop. It's the greatest thing in the world that they don't continue filming. They don't watch. They don't let's get a different angle. And they're always shaky and they're always so you can't see the zipper on the thing. I mean, what's with the fact that now everybody has the unbelievable high-tech camera and there's no good footage, and if there is footage, it's 4 seconds of shaky and then they turn the camera off. And it's why wouldn't you continue videoing?
Because, there are a lot of fakes now.
Yeah.
Than ever before. Now, especially because people want their likes on TikTok and Instagram, and they want all these followers, and there's a lot of fake stuff now. That hurts. And what hurts about it is when that fake stuff comes out, the people with legit stuff won't share it then. They're afraid to share it now because. The other reason is, I'll give you 2 examples I can think of right away. Okay. The one hunter in Kentucky he watched 2 Bigfoot cross a field in Anderson County. One was big and dark colored, one was smaller, lighter colored. 10 seconds they crossed that field. He had a high-powered rifle. He could have shot him. I go, why didn't you shoot them? He goes, first of all, it's hunting deer. Second of all, I didn't know what I was looking at. By the time it caught me off guard, I was trying to process it. They're gone. Your mind's trying to think of if you see a Bigfoot, it's going to scare the daylights out of you. So yeah, you're going to jump, you're going to move because you're not expecting it. That's one reason. The other reason is, I think it takes a while. Like the gentleman I'll go back to this one. There's 2 of them. The gentleman at LBL, he said, Charlie, when I saw that Bigfoot, I know why people don't get videos of it. By the time I would have got my phone out, watch this. You got your phone, right? Take my picture. Oh, I'm done.
Hold on.
I mean,
pretty good.
I mean, it happens so quick.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So the guy at LBL, he said, there's no way I could have got my phone out and got a picture of that. It was there, then I saw it run off, and then, but I saw it clear as day. There's one more I'll share with you, and I got to wrap it up. Remember the one we took over by Cave Run Lake? It was the Marine. So he was hunting in the morning. Some dogs ruined his hunt. The dogs ruined my hunt. So he left his phone and his gun by the tree. Walks out from the tree line in this field. Looks over. Sees a Bigfoot down by the creek drinking the water. So he's watching it. I go, did you go back and get your phone or gun? He goes, no, I was mesmerized. I was trying to figure out what it is. So then I said, what did you do then? He goes, well, the creature stood up, looked at me, then turned around and walked up this ridge, walked to the woods, up this ridge. I go, what'd you do then? He goes, well, I walked over to where it was to see what it was doing, to see, where it was standing. I saw it disappear. I go, why didn't you walk back and get your phone and your gun? He goes, I didn't think about it. I wasn't a Bigfoot hunter. I wasn't looking to get Bigfoot. It caught me off guard, and I was just curious. So another blown opportunity. He could have got his camera, but that happens, seems like over and over. It's so quick.
Yeah.
It happens so quick.
That makes
have you
sense.
seen the guy who was a linguist for the military who analyzed the Sierra sounds? What's your opinion on? Have you heard anything like that in your experience, and what's your opinion on that?
So this will be the last one. So Scott Nelson is a cryptolinguist, just like this other guy I just showed you. He's another cryptolinguist specialist. So long story, his son was doing a Bigfoot presentation for middle school or something. He went on the BFRO's website. There's some recordings of language or gibberish on there for years. Nobody even knew what it was. Scott was sitting there, and his son played it. He goes, play that again. He goes, that's a language. That's two of them talking. That's not one. That's two individuals. This guy's highly trained cryptolinguist specialist. So that's what he does for a living. He goes, that's a language. They're talking there. Hold on. He went, tracked down all those audio hours of it, broke them down. I got to see Scott in Missouri do a presentation for the first time in person. Amazing what this knowledge this man has. Broke down every piece, every syllable of what one was saying. And I'll give you one example, okay? I'm not a... Here's what he said. One would go, we want. The other one would go, what we want. It would repeat the end of the first sentence. I've asked you, where's Walmart? Oh, Walmart? That's over. You tend to repeat the end of the sentence. And that's what they were doing. He said it was multiple individuals. One was repeating part of the first sentence. And he does a better job. Scott Nelson, go to YouTube, look him up. He breaks down the Sierra sounds. We do believe they have a language based on that evidence there.
He even said he thought one was telling a joke and laughing at itself.
Yeah.
Scott Nelson.
Scott Nelson, yeah. Alrighty, well, thank you guys so much for coming. I do have my book up here. I'd be happy to autograph it if you want a copy. And thank you again for coming. Thank you.